Hey everyone, welcome back to another episode of the Celia Lee Show. It's the podcast that's all about helping you become the best version of yourself in all areas of your life and have a juicier life. I'm your girl, your bestie, Celia Lee, aka the baddie, Celia Lee. So today, I have invited two guests back on. I don't know if you remember where we spoke about endometriosis, the word that is a mouthful, and the other word, other disease, adenomyosis. So anyway, so without further ado, let me just reintroduce the two beautiful lady, Leonie and Andri.
Hey! Hi!
Thank you, ladies, for coming back on.
So glad to be back.
It's
Yeah.
such
Thanks
a
for having
pleasure.
us.
Yeah, thank
Yeah.
you.
Guys, I don't know if you can see on the video, but if you're watching the video, but you can see like we have notes and everything, like looking like news reporters. But anyway, so reintroduce yourself so people, in case those who haven't watched the last episode.
Yes.
So Leonie.
So I am Leonie Sheriff. I am a singer-songwriter, producer. I work within the music industry. My day job is more so helping younger artists developing in their craft, so artist development and coaching, vocal coaching, various things. I have a few plates spinning. I'm also a musical artist, make my own music, and have been doing so for a long time. I also have my own brand, Sensing by Sheriff, which is my perfumery venture, which encompasses music and scent together. So it's kind of scent-inspired, song-inspired scents. And it's just bringing this kind of sensory world together of the olfactory and the auditory. So, I do that also, perfumer. And I'm also an advocate, of course, for endometriosis and chronic illnesses. I've been on the Endometriosis UK's EDI forum for the past year, helping to just be a voice, a critical voice towards a lot of their ventures and operative plans. So yeah, just helping to raise awareness, particularly for marginalised communities and just all people suffering with endometriosis. So yeah, that's a bit about me.
That is always a really hard introduction to follow.
It's
Can
not.
we do me first next time? Hi, so my name's Andri Constantinou. I do work at a wellness fitness brand, but I'm also a nutritional therapist and a somatic coach. And my own journey with endometriosis and other health concerns kind of led me down a path of holistic medicine, nutritional therapy in particular. So I ended up training in that, and my primary focus with nutritional therapy is around hormone balance, endometriosis, PCOS, nervous system health and gut health and autoimmunity. I see a lot of that as well. So really excited for this conversation today and to just give people more information about how they can support themselves and take agency in their journey.
Hey ladies, if you're a perfume girl and you want to change your perfume or looking for something different, something that's oozing with feminine energy and goddess energy, then you need to check out Leonie's unique fragrance brand, Sensing by Sheriff, where fragrance meets music, song-inspired scents. I've never come across something like this. It's definitely unique for me. And guess what? You can now get 15% off of all our fragrances by using my discount code Celia Sensen. That is CILIASHENSHEN, all capital letters. The website and code can be found in the description. Thank you. Love both of the intro. I thought it was important for you two to come back on. But we all agreed actually that there should be a part 2 because, like you said last time, we literally just scrape. Yeah, exactly. I want to recap what endo is because today we might we are talking both endo and adenomyosis. Hold on, you know what? I'm not going to ruin this. Someone explain it. So what is endo? Yeah, let's just start off with what is endo.
So endo is it's described as endometrial type tissue that is found growing in other areas of the body, mainly the pelvic region, but it can surpass onto organs and other areas of the body. It can affect reproductive organs, your fallopian tubes, the ovaries, the bladder, the bowel, the thoracic system, and it can just cause a lot of symptoms and issues around the menstrual cycle and outside of the menstrual cycle. And then in terms of the different types, so there is peritoneal sort of surface level endometriosis, and then there's deep in endometriosis, which is sometimes abbreviated to DIE, ironically, deep infiltrating endometriosis. And then I think the third category would be endometriomas, which are found on the ovaries, and they are like endometriosis cysts. So those are the three main subtypes.
Because like also like going to the dye, let's call it dye.
Yeah.
That grows deeper into pelvic tissue, affecting organs like the bowel, bladder, and ligaments.
Yes. And it's interesting because so dye is understood to be infiltrating, so it goes. It's how many I think millimeters into the tissue it goes. But dye can also be referred to endo that's found affecting certain organs like the rectum, the bladder, the bowel, and adhesions. When there's an element of adhesions, which means that filmy tissue and scar tissue is binding organs, sticking organs together. Like, your bowel could be stuck to your uterus, or your bladder can be stuck to your bowel, all sorts of things like that. That also comes under dye as well.
Is that what causes the pain? Because they're stuck together.
They're stuck together. There's no mobility. There's friction. There's inflammation. There's bleeding. Micro bleeds happening. It's bleeding into it. So I would like Andri to continue more on this specific area, but I know again it's down to theories. So a theory would be that endometriosis is one of the theories is that it's linked to retrograde menstruation. So the belief is that these tissues each month with our menstrual cycles are bleeding into themselves. So they have nowhere to escape out of the body. So it's causing inflammation and build-up of tissue. So with adhesions and sticking things together, you can imagine the added element of bleed, a micro bleed that's causing inflammation. But
there's so many different
there are so many
layers
theories
to it. Yeah.
Because also here it says, like you said, cyst on ovaries. That's one type. Invasive growth in the bowel wall or surrounding tissues, and another one, bladder endo, which is you mentioned, and then pelvic nerve. It affects your pelvic nervous system.
Yeah, so endometriosis can basically impact the nerves. So the way it can impact the nerves and then generate different pain signals to essentially fire throughout the body, and also affect your mental health as well, depending on what part of the nerves that it touches on or impacts, or how deep it goes.
And I think one thing that people don't also, I didn't know this either. We just think it's just pain, right? Period pain, really bad period pain, and heavy bleeding. But I also read that it causes diarrhea, constipation.
Yeah, I was diagnosed with IBS so many times because the digestive symptoms, because of where I believe my endometriosis has manifested, just looks like IBS ultimately. And actually, there are some really good and easy to follow documents that you can find online. So the NICE guidelines in terms of different symptoms that you have if you present with different symptoms in a certain way in the month. So if your symptoms are not just cyclical, for example, and they're of a certain nature, you can kind of almost present that case to your doctor and say, well, these guidelines say that based on all this information, I suspect deep infiltrating endometriosis, and then you must be, as per kind of the NHS guidelines, you must be then referred to a specialist centre. So I would definitely encourage people to look through, this is public information, look through the documentation and almost prepare a set of documents when they go and speak with their doctor about it, because you know your body, it's not just IBS.
What's the document for?
No, I'm just saying, write down all your symptoms, write down your symptoms that are cyclical, so symptoms that happen at the same time of your menstrual cycle, symptoms that happen outside of kind of like your menstrual cycle, have it all written down and track it as well, so that there's kind of no way for the doctor to try and gaslight you into saying it's something else. The answer from the doctors was IBS for about 6 or 7 years of my journey. It wasn't until I kind of came across all this information and documentation myself through support groups, actually, that I was then able to present my case to a doctor and actually get a referral to somebody who then believed me. So it's really, really important because there are so many. It's just track everything.
So many overlapping symptoms.
Yeah, with
So
other
symptom
other
diary.
diseases,
Symptom
like
diary is
fatigue,
essential.
like fatigue is and like anxiety and depression are massive side effects as a result of the inflammation, and as a result of all the different imbalances that the condition can cause. So a doctor might just give you antidepressants, or you know, what was the other thing I said? I said anxiety and depression, and my brain has just gone.
Yeah.
Anxiety, depression.
What was the other thing I said before that? Because I was going to say like what the doctors would suggest.
Neurological.
Yeah. Well, anyway, my brain just
IBS
went obviously.
IBS,
like,
yeah.
oh yeah, fatigue,
Fatigue,
brain
fatigue,
fog.
that's
That's
the
it.
one.
Yeah. Maybe suffering with a little
definitely
bit of that today.
all the time.
Like that could, you know, the doctors might just be like, oh, you're low in iron, which could be part of the picture because that's one of the theories
Bleeding
that
a lot.
surrounds endometriosis.
Yeah.
So like sometimes heavy bleeding is because of low iron, which
Really?
which kind of sounds.
Or low iron is because
Like
of heavy
with
bleeding.
it,
Or
Yeah,
low iron,
yeah.
So like sometimes one causes the other, and so the doctor would just be like, oh yeah, take some iron tablets. Which, by the way, the ones you get from the doctors always make you constipated.
Very constipated.
Which then,
Folic acid does the same as well.
which then if you're constipated, you're then not eliminating toxins. Then you're overburdening your liver. Then your liver's ability to flush out the hormones and the toxins is then impaired, which then leads to more inflammation, which then makes the condition worse. And so, yeah.
Wow.
The knock-on effect.
There's so many,
Yeah.
there's so many different knock-on impacts.
What's the average? It's just a quick answer. What's the average time frame to get diagnosed? Would you say?
I think it's around 8 years.
Now they're saying 8 years.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It was it longer?
I think it was shorter.
Okay.
No, yeah, longer. Yeah, I think it must have come down. I don't know.
I
but
hope it's come down. I think
8 years on average.
Yeah. The number that sticks in my head is 8 years.
And how is it normally diagnosed?
Officially, it's laparoscopically diagnosed.
Yeah.
It can be picked up on imaging and symptomatically, like keeping a diary and common symptoms that present that lead to it pointing towards it. But an official diagnosis has to be done with pathology, which is through an excision surgery, a laparoscopic surgery.
Yeah, I think initially for diagnosis, it just needs to be keyhole. So like they make, I've got my little scars.
Yeah.
They make incisions in your pelvis and they go through your belly button with like a camera to kind of see what's going on. And sometimes in that surgery, they can kind of address some of it, but
so they have diagnostic surgery, which is when they're having a look around and they can take a tissue sample and biopsy it and check that it checks through to be an endo. And then sometimes they can apply treatment at the same time and do ablation and excision.
Ablation, sorry, I just want to explain. Ablation is where basically they kind of laser the tissue, which is usually suitable for like superficial endo. So if the tissue is kind of just on the top of the organs, but excision is kind of the gold standard for actually removing the lesions. Often it grows back with ablation, but then there are complications to that, like surgical scar tissue. I've heard a lot of women who kind of started with endometriosis, but due to the sheer number of surgeries and scar tissue, adenomyosis and adhesions kind of then also became part of the picture. So you've got to be really careful about, you know, how many surgeries you're having and if they're having an actual positive impact as well.
How long did it take you to get diagnosed?
So I started having symptoms from like day one. So I'll say that's like kind of my day one.
What's day one?
Like my my
how old
very
were you?
first period. I was 12.
Okay.
I was 12,
Yeah.
and my sister and my mum were like, maybe I shouldn't say this because they might watch it, but they were like, "You're such a drama queen, get up."
Which is what most people get,
yeah.
right?
Yeah, it's what a lot of people get. And because obviously they both had their periods, and they were like, "It's really not that bad."
Yeah.
So I would say I started going to the doctors from then, because I was like, "This doesn't feel normal, doesn't feel right." I was put on the pill for a really long time from the age of 15, because I also had PCOS, so I was struggling with those symptoms and irregular periods too. From the age of 12 until, so how old would I be in 2015? 2015 is when I got diagnosed. So about 9 years from when I first started going to the doctors about it to an actual diagnosis. And the only reason I got diagnosed was because I pushed for it, and I actually didn't even get a referral to one of the specialist centres. I went privately, found someone who worked at a specialist centre, went and saw her privately, because I was really fortunate to have private medical as part of my health insurance through the company that I was working for at the time. Got the diagnosis, and then used that information to push me back through the NHS to like the specialist centres, because actually the specialist centres aren't available privately. They're only available through the NHS, which is a good thing, because because it means it's accessible not just to people who've got access to private healthcare. Like, I realised I was very fortunate. I don't know how much longer it would have taken if I didn't have that.
Just a quick one. I want to ask you a big favor. Can you please subscribe to my YouTube channel if you haven't already done so? Follow me on Spotify or whatever platform you're listening on, because it would help me grow my channel, help me reach more people. It would mean the world to me. Thank you so much. All right, let's get back to the episode.
That's kind of my story in a nutshell.
My diagnosis took 20 plus years. I think it was around 22 years.
Wow.
And I had symptoms from the very first period. So I was 13 years old, and just terrible, debilitating symptoms. I'd say like 2 to 4 days a month. Just crazy. And I started going to the doctors from very young, and I was just given painkillers for a long time. I think I had my first internal ultrasound maybe when I was 17 or something, and my ultrasounds never showed anything to do with endo. It would pick up cysts and fibroids, but never endometriosis. And then I ended up having a surgery in 2015, which missed it entirely. They didn't do any tissue sampling or biopsies, and they just felt that I looked okay. And then I was felt like I was sort of told, oh, you've probably got IBS, and just went down this whole journey of trying to make peace with the fact that there's no answer to this debilitating pain. And then things progressed and got worse over the years, and I was eventually diagnosed officially in 2022.
Recent.
Really
My official
recent.
diagnosis, I was pretty much diagnosed from 2021 on MRI, but the surgery is obviously the official diagnosis. So really recent, considering how long I've been having the symptoms. And by the time I was having that surgery, my symptoms had unfortunately exacerbated from not just being with my periods on the cycle, but they were it had gotten to daily pain. So it had worsened, and it had just gotten worse over time.
Yeah. I mean, I just want to add that I kind of got so frustrated with the system and the lack of answers, and also feeling worse after the surgery that I did have, that I kind of didn't push for more surgeries. And that's kind of why I went down a slightly different route, because I believe in my heart they only kind of checked superficially. They didn't check the deeper areas or the other organs, which I believe are affected. But I was kind of I just don't want to go through that.
It's not a nice
I just
thing to
don't
go
want
through,
to.
is
It's
it?
it's so draining, and people go round and round in circles with it, and I was like, I don't want to, which is why I went in a slightly different direction.
Which we're going to talk about in a sec. So let's quickly touch on adenomyosis. Adenomyosis. Yeah. They call it the sister, endo sister.
Yeah.
So what is it, and what's the difference?
Oh, adenomyosis. So again, some people say it's the endometriosis of the muscle wall of the womb, but technically it's described as endometrial type tissue that's found growing within the muscle wall layer of the womb or uterus, and it's tissue that builds up, causes inflammation. Again, same type of behavior as the endometrial tissue that grows on outside of the womb, but this is actually grown within the muscle wall of the womb. So yeah, it symptomatically it can show up as heavy periods for some women. It can affect fertility because it's obviously affecting the structure in some ways of the womb. It can affect the womb's disposition, how it sits. It's quite common to have a retroverted uterus that leans back. It's described as boggy on ultrasounds and scans, and like during surgery, in terms of diagnosis with that, they can't officially diagnose it unless they do a hysterectomy.
Oh,
But yeah,
didn't know that.
but it's pretty much there's things they do during surgery, like they will prod it and see a spongy womb that can make a dent with one of their instruments, and they can see through imaging and visually that it is adenomyosis. But again, it's one of those things that most women, if they go for a hysterectomy, get their official diagnosis, but it's still considered a diagnosis at that stage. So that's adenomyosis.
And are there different types?
Yes, there is diffuse adenomyosis, which is where the tissue is sort of flushed all throughout the womb. It can't really depict one point. It's just everywhere. There is focal, which is sort of areas where it can be more so, I guess, depicted. And then there is adenomyomas, which I would imagine are kind of similar to endometriomas.
I believe so.
Yeah, and again, those, from what I understand, it's hard to differentiate between those and fibroids because they're quite similar, that balls, muscle growths, all within the wall of the uterus. So yeah.
So is it less common? Because I've actually never heard of it until you spoken about it.
I think it's less commonly spoken about. It's not like, so endometriosis does have a page on the NHS. I think adenomyosis, I'm not sure if it does yet. It's something that's apparently in the doctor's book, so to speak, but it's not officially recognized. I don't know, it's recognized, but it's not, I don't know, resource wise, I don't think it's as recognized as endometriosis. A lot of the time it can come hand in hand with endo. So if somebody has endometriosis, they can end up having adenomyosis too. There are again some theories as to how that might be the case, but again, these are just theories because there are some people that have only adenomyosis and no endo. So how would some theories wouldn't really check through on that? On the case that endo could maybe cause you to have adenomyosis, but it is common to have both. What else did you say?
No, I just said is it less common than endo basically? 'Cause I've never heard of it.
Yeah, I mean, I would say it probably is a little bit less common, but they still say 1 in 10. So, which is what they say with endo as well.
Yeah.
So I think it's probably more common than we realise. It's just down to the lack of research or not knowing the full extent of how many women maybe even have it. Because some people don't have symptoms with it, but it can show up on pregnancy journey. It can cause infertility, a bit like endo as well. It's important to note some people don't have symptoms, which is really, so they don't have any symptoms and no physical symptoms such as pain or discomfort, but they might struggle to get pregnant, and then imaging and testing could show that it's endometriosis or adenomyosis is a factor. So it's not always symptomatic, but I think it more commonly is.
What's the stuff that people don't really, apart from being painful, what's it that people would have never thought about? That's ade. I call it ade.
Yeah.
That endo won't have, because it's quite similar, but is anything that
differentiates?
Yeah.
Symptomatically?
Yeah, or yeah.
I think some of the things I've heard, I have both, so I don't really, I don't know where to draw the line on what. But they say typically adenomyosis shows up with very heavy periods. So if you're having the kind of bleeding that is like bleeding through the clothes and things like that, can be a sign. But in my case, I never...
Hey ladies, just a quick one. So our lovely guest Andri has kindly gifted you lot 7 emergency meals, recipes that is for endometriosis, and they all take less than 10 minutes to prepare. If you want this, then go into the description and click on the link to download the ebook. Right, let's get back to the episode.
I wouldn't say I had the heaviest periods. I wouldn't say they weren't, but I've heard of, worse stories when it comes to bleeding than maybe what I have experienced. A heaviness, a dragging sensation where the womb constantly feels like it's like carrying something, and bloating is a big symptom.
Sounds like fibroids, isn't it?
Quite similar to fibroids. They say one of the differentiating factors between endo and adenomyosis is that they say a lot of women with endometriosis complain of if they have painful intercourse, it's during, and women with adenomyosis experience the pain after. So that's something that's considered differences. And just the fact that with endometriosis, it can be treated in the sense of both, endometriosis is incurable, is considered incurable, but it can be treated with surgery. So it can be excised out of the body and cut out. Adenomyosis cannot be. But they would consider a cure would be a total hysterectomy because it removes the womb. So it removes the organ that's affected.
So Ade is only on the womb. Endo is everywhere.
Yes, it's within, adenomyosis is in the wall of the womb and endometriosis is outside of it. So, yeah.
Oh, wow. Okay. Now, I want to talk about the impact. So, based on your own experience, on your own story, so how has this condition impacted on your mental, emotional health? So first of all, like you said, you've been gaslighting. Like since
I don't even know where to start.
Did you remember that reel I sent you about the depiction of Endo and how she felt so she felt lonely. She felt like, am I really going crazy? And the fact that no one's hearing her out. Was that you too?
Yeah,
absolutely. Yeah.
I think when I finally started finding people in the same boat as me, I was like, oh my gosh, it's not just me. And when I got my diagnosis, it was like, I was shit scared, like, sorry for the swearing. I was really scared because I didn't really know what it meant at the time. But also I just felt validated.
But were you angry at your friends and family for not believing in you at the time? Were you frustrated?
I wasn't angry, but I did feel like I knew it. I knew it, I mean, painful periods can be a thing that run in families and, and it definitely did in mine. Like my mum had painful periods, my aunt, like family members, but I knew it was more than just a painful period. So yeah, like Andri said, there was a massive sense of that validation and that kind of weird relief that you're not going crazy was definitely a factor. And even like things you've experienced with work and that, and sometimes bosses or colleagues, people making you, in the earlier days when you can't come in and it's your period and you don't know what it is, so you're just saying I've got a really bad period, and people are thinking, what? Pull yourself together. Get yourself together. And now I've been told that on occasion, get your ass in, I think there was a sense of, wow, people really, if you're not going through it and you haven't experienced it, you don't know what it's like, quite frankly.
But were you depressed from it, or because you felt lonely, or because it was just so painful that you feel like there's no point of, like, there's no, like, is this my life kind of thing? If that makes sense.
Yeah.
Or a bit of everything.
Yeah, definitely. I think where it does affect your mental health anyway, because of the different imbalances in the body and the inflammation, I think most women are prone to it, but then there is the added kind of feeling of loneliness, the feeling of seclusion, the feeling that, like, maybe I'm just it's all in my head because
Did you think that?
Yeah. I definitely, and sometimes I just felt like I didn't. I felt like I couldn't relate to the people around me because I was like, no one gets it. Like sometimes you just, you know, you need a moment to just like let the energy out. You know, just have a bit of a moan. Like, why?
Did you think there was something wrong with you?
Yeah.
Like,
I've spent most of my life thinking I need fixing, which you can see in my journey of what I've done in my life. I've spent most of my life thinking I'm broken and I need fixing. So, definitely.
So then that, talking about that fixing, how has that affected your team?
Massively. I feel like I come with a lot of baggage when it comes to like a relationship or intimacy or the conversation about children. Because I'm like, well, I don't know if I can put myself through that. So, and also, you know, like the symptoms that we spoke about last time, I just feel like, I have felt like, I think less so now, but I definitely, it's definitely made me like really cautious about who I'm intimate with and how much I can trust people because, I guess I can't be as free spirited in that way because of my own insecurities in a certain way. I don't know if you.
I think it's made me feel that I need to be really self-reliant. I feel like two of the peak areas where things surfaced for me were while I were in long-term relationships, actually. So with the first time around when I was like misdiagnosed or not diagnosed, it was difficult because the symptoms were so extreme and it was affecting my mental health. Those times, you know, when I was going to the doctors for support, they'd said, oh, it's probably PMDD. Premenstrual dysphoric disorder, which it's a mouthful as well. Liken it to a very heightened type of PMS, but also it's comparable to extreme depression, but it's only experienced roughly 2 weeks a month from middle of the cycle up until the period. So
I'm laughing because it's
so
just
your luteal phase once you're.
It was almost like what I'm thinking is like basically you only have maybe extreme, but you only basically yourself for the first 2 weeks of the month, and then the rest you're just like back to like.
And for the first week, if you're experiencing pain or discomfort with your period, you only really get like a week, a month where you're able to kind of just be yourself,
literally,
be free.
And I don't get that anymore because mine's all the time. But
Really,
those days it was difficult because I was obviously had my investigations, had surgeries. It all turned out that everything's fine, Leonie. It's like, oh, well, what's the problem? You know, this doctor says it's fine. I felt really gaslit. I didn't feel understood. I was going crazy. I really was going crazy. I felt like I wanted a second opinion almost immediately after my first surgery, but I didn't pursue anything at that point. I just thought I had IBS and I had PMDD. You know, they dole out medication quite easily. Doctors will give you antidepressants. None of that worked for me. It made me feel worse. And then I tried to like manage it myself more holistically, so to speak. And it just was difficult because in relationships, again, no one's in your body. It does feel like an inconvenience to another person. You think, oh, I come with baggage. I come with extra issues to the average woman, perhaps. And it's just, it's a mind F. It really it is hard because you have to find a way to kind of function, manage, and not be so affected by the thought of what somebody else thinks of you, especially like in a romantic relationship. So I've definitely felt that I have to be a person that is self-reliant. It's hard because you do need extra support when you're going through this, and you need a really understanding partner, but I feel like it can get too much for people or for some people. So
do you get anxious when you first meet someone? Like, okay, like, as in, do you feel anxious about being intimate with someone because what if I really like them, but what if it will turn them off because of my condition? Like basically, you start making stories up whether you meet someone, or maybe it's for work or friends or anything like that.
Yes and no. Like I said, my experiences flared while I was actually within quite long-term relationships, so it was a little bit different. Now I don't really, no, I don't feel too angry. I do and I don't. I feel okay. I feel like at the end of the day, this is my journey. I didn't ask for this. This is what I come with. You know, we're warriors at the end of the day. We're really strong. Like, so yeah, there is a part of, I think with friendships more so, because I mean, when it comes to relationships, I do just set the tone off the bat. And anyone that doesn't understand or can't relate, I wouldn't be even considering, quite frankly. But obviously it's about communication, and with friendships sometimes I think it's difficult because a lot of, you know, building new friendships and that is about socializing and doing things, and for me it does affect me in terms of like my energy levels, my fatigue, my mobility. I'm not the kind of person that just ups and goes out places.
I was going to say about physical health, so
yeah, in my case, I even things like going to a concert or a festival, I won't go places unless I know I have seating, because unfortunately walking can really trigger on extreme flare-ups for me, so it does affect my mobility. It's strange because it's like I used to dance a lot. I come from dance, and you know, I used to dance 3, 4, 5 times a week, and I've grown up dancing, so you know, that all slowed down from 2022. It's been quite sad for me because I really love it, but now I'm lucky if I can manage a couple of classes a year, because it's actually the whole process of even getting out the house, commuting down there, doing the class, coming back, and then the after effects and the fatigue and the, you know, the flare-ups. Sometimes it's very hit and miss, and it can... and the anxiety. I think a lot of the time with dance, I always feel better afterwards, but the anxiety of getting there is really hard. But with walking, it triggers my pain. So it's interesting. I'm better with stuff like yoga and stretches and dancing, actually, if it were on my doorstep kind of thing. But walking, unfortunately, it does something where it does trigger a flare-up quite a lot. So, yeah, I have lots of restrictions, and I feel like... Yeah, I think I have to face my reality, and I've accepted it. I just I know certain other people might not understand it, but I think it's just giving grace to yourself and not pushing yourself beyond your limit, because you're the one that's going to have to pay for it and nurse yourself back to some kind of equilibrium and functionality again. So,
like, listen to your own body, basically.
Literally, yeah.
What about you, Andrew? I know you do your walks.
I like it.
Yeah. Do you do pole dancing as well? Do you still do it?
I stopped pole dancing because I moved and I can't find a class nearby that I can get to easily. But it's okay. I've replaced that with reggaeton dancing, so it's okay. To be honest, it affects me less so, kind of just generally throughout the month. I do find though that it affects. I have some very strong boundaries about how much I push myself, just generally, on a week-by-week basis. And it's very obvious in my body when I've kind of just done a little bit too much, because for me anyway, I will get like a flare-up in kind of like my pelvic area in particular, like really tight, sharp pains, and like the fatigue will just hit me, whether it's like my period or not. So my body will show me, okay, you've done a little bit too much. So I get really anxious when I look at my diary and I'm booked up like 4 or 5 weekends in a row without a break, because I'm like, I'm not going to be able to get through that. I'm going to have to let somebody down, or I'm going to have to push myself to a point where I'm then going to be off work sick for like a week or two. So I've just had to have really strong boundaries in that respect. And that's... For anybody who tries to make plans with me, if I've got stuff coming up in the diary, I'll be like, let's chat about it in a few weeks, because what I don't want to do, I don't like planning things too far in advance, because then it's very easy for things to get really, really booked up. But then also if I see I've got a few things kind of scattered around, I won't add more in to make myself super busy, because I know that I'm going to have to let somebody down somewhere at some point, and I don't want to be that flaky person. If I've got like a big thing coming up and I'm like, I can feel in my body that my period's about to arrive, I get such bad anxiety because I'm like, oh shit, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? Because whilst I'm not in daily pain, my period usually knocks me, and I get a couple of stages in like my luteal phase. So like in the 2 weeks in the lead up to my period, where I'm just so tired and all I've done is like have a normal day. I haven't been running a marathon, and I'm just absolutely knocked out. And even people who know me, they're like, gosh, why are you so tired? But I've just had to, for me, I just have to manage that because my body shows me very quickly if I've done too much. So I'm very fortunate, that I'm not in daily pain. And it's not a nice place to be.
I find that this, from hearing what you two are saying, telling me, and how like you've accepted this the reality, and then you have the boundaries. This is like another type of, it's self-love, but it's like on a different level, basically.
It is. It is, because people, like, at first, when I started, like, changing my diet and my lifestyle, people were like, oh, this other fad. Oh, you young'uns with your fads.
Oh my God. Like,
you young'uns
this
with
looks healthy. Like,
and it's like, do you know what? It's actually not even, obviously it is a choice, because it's a choice that I'm making to love my body, so that my body can feel as good as possible. But it's more of a, this is what I need to do to be able to show up in my life. And, you know, I think people have stopped saying, oh, it's a fad now, because they're like, oh, wow, she actually lives like this now. So
do you think, so when you see, when you,
all right,
like when you see certain girls, it's kind of slightly off topic now, but just on the topic of self-love, when you see like certain girls, you know how they, this is non-sufferers of the endo, but they are like, the girls that who just you see themselves disrespecting themselves, they have no self-love. Do you view them like, girl, do you understand how lucky you are, like kind of thing like that, like how you're not
really
honoring your body? No, okay.
I don't really. Sometimes I see people who are not treating their bodies in the way that they need to, and actually I have compassion for the fact, I have compassion for it, rather than judgment. Rather than any judgment or like or like any jealousy or anything like that, because I think maybe some people have the luxury of being really carefree and feeding their bodies rubbish, and they and living in a certain way that for me would be, you know, I would be in a really bad place if I was living like that on a regular basis. But I do sometimes think, you know, they are lucky to not have to suffer the consequences and not have to manage things so tightly. But you don't know how that might show up at a later stage in their life. And, you know, everybody's journey is their own. And some people, you know, some people get put here to kind of go on a journey to help themselves and then help others as well. And I just, everyone's on their own path, really.
Does it make you feel, having this condition, how does it make you feel as a woman? Do you ever feel like, oh, why was I born into this world as a woman? Have you ever felt that?
No.
And that also, like, how do you embrace your femininity? Yeah.
I feel like everyone has a different experience here on this earth. I don't know. I because from the first period, these were my symptoms. So that my introduction into womanhood really came with this. So I had to deal with this from quite a young age. And I think I might have mentioned this last time on the last episode. Like I didn't know many people that were going through what I was going through. So again, it's that thing of, am I weak? Those are the early questions I would ask myself. Am I fragile and weak? No, I knew it wasn't that. But you just, as a woman, I feel tough. I feel resilient. I know I'm resilient, which is probably what shapes a lot of my attitudes in my day-to-day life, because, you know, I have a lot of goals and aspirations. I feel like I've had to kind of adapt the way that I was moving forward in life. Obviously, I came out of full-time work a few years ago. And to be honest, I was working in accountancy and finance, and it was never my passion. My passion was always more creative pursuits and music and the creative arts. But it's weird because I feel like I had to say, okay, I don't know if I'm going to have the life I thought I was going to have. I'm going to have to sort of listen to my body more and re-navigate. But I feel like by virtue of having that resilience and knowing that you have to be strong and fight through things, you've got to fight through this pain every month. What once upon a time was every month, now it's every other day. It's exacerbating to such a ridiculous level. I just know that I'm going to push through and get through it. So I believe in myself. And I know that, you know, even at times where I had to like depend on people, whether it was in a relationship or I needed that support, when and if that's not there anymore, you've still got to find a way to function, to get through, to still be that person that is goal driven and not going to let anything stop her, not to the detriment of anything, but to what I can handle. So I just feel strong. I feel excited about the future, even though sometimes I wake up in the morning sometimes and I think to myself, how am I even going to like get through this day? I always get through it. And you know, I still dream big. I'm still working towards my goals. I feel really positive, to be honest.
Do you love being a woman?
I do. I love being in my feminine
Yeah.
energy.
I mean, you're both very feminine to me. Yeah.
Feminine base.
Yeah.
Yeah, I embrace it. I think, you know, I feel that I'm quite a nurturing person, like to my friends, my family, male and female. And I just feel like, yeah, I embrace it. I embrace all of it. I have no choice.
Yeah.
Do you know what I find also, this actually just came to my mind, is that the fact that you two have like this endo, and obviously it's a hard journey, but you two are so happy, bubbly, like positive, because you know some people can affect some people are just like be moody, like my life is hard, life is shit, so they're not going to be. Do you know what I mean?
I do have my moments.
Yeah, we all have our moments. It's not 100% like, you know, airy fairy
Obviously,
all the
we're
time.
human, but I'm saying that generally, like the energy I get from you two is actually very positive. Yeah. But anyway, so I was going to ask, have you ever, trigger warning, ever been suicidal? The pain was so bad that you've been.
I've felt, the pain has been so bad that I felt like I want to be put out of my misery. I don't want to be here. But I've never been at the point where I would act on it. So I have felt like absolutely helpless and like I can't handle this anymore. I can't take it. I don't want to feel this. But I've never felt beyond that point. But yeah, definitely have felt like that.
I've definitely sat in my misery with it a lot, and I feel like you kind of almost need to sit with it to feel it to then come to the other side. But suicidal from endo, no.
So let's talk about holistic and somatic healing experience, because you said you went down a different route, and also I watched your documentary, and you said that you actually tried something. You could basically use like, let me try whatever will help. So what's your experience with in fact, what type of healing have you tried?
Naturally, I've tried to adjust my diet, so I'm more I have adjusted my diet. So when I was kind of first trying to deal with how to help myself, I was advised to try like the FODMAP diet and eliminating things.
Why is that?
Oh, I don't even know what it stands for.
Fructooligos, something,
Yes.
saccharides.
Yeah, it's like eliminating different things. So whether you like eliminate fructose.
That's like an IBS management.
It
though,
is,
so
but they gave me that in the endo
Like,
clinic.
I would never give someone on endo the FODMAP diet.
Yeah.
But why would they suggest that?
Because they were saying certain things. One of the big symptoms is bloating. It's definitely one of my big symptoms.
So fermentable
oligodemonosaccharide. Yeah, it's all these. It's basically certain types of like fibers that cause a lot of gas and bloating in the digestive system.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt you, I just thought of something. Turmeric is like a superfood for inflammation. Can you not just have more of that?
I'm big on turmeric and ginger, like especially my
Same.
time of the month. I would be boiling up ginger tea, like,
And does it help?
on tap. I think it helps to do two things. It does help it actually helps you bleed more, which is not
Yeah.
necessarily what you want, but it does
helps to kind of thin the blood a little bit so it can come out rather than because sometimes like the pain is the blood is I don't know about you, but like the blood is so thick and clotty that your uterus is like painful, contracting to kind of let it out. Yeah,
madness.
Anyway, sorry, you was doing the FODMAP.
I mean, I didn't really find any of that too helpful. I just feel my diet is pretty much a Mediterranean diet. Like I just kind of do better on like leafy greens, fish, some little bit of red meat. I don't really have much chicken, but and limited carbs.
And carbs flares it up.
If I go yeast, I think like breads and stuff, I notice like if I have pizza and pasta, it's not very good for me. I don't really have a lot of rice, but I'm more of a sweet potato, and I do have red and white potatoes still, girl. And like just oily fish, greens. So diet wise, I kind of stick to that. What else? I don't really have alcohol anymore, very rarely, because of the fact that I'm on strong pain meds as well, and they don't agree. So the occasional drink, and when I do have alcohol, I find it always aggravates my pain. So, and then in terms of other things, I just try and get a lot of rest. I don't have like a big it's more so rest. I see a pelvic floor specialist who's amazing, so she helps me with the kind of deep tissue massage on myself. So it's kind of like stomach massage to help.
It's like lymphatic drainage kind of thing.
I don't know if that is what it might be. Somewhat
similar, maybe.
But it's the aim of it is to try and loosen up the mobility of the organs inside. Because obviously, like I can't take your endometriosis out, but with things like adhesions and scar tissue and tightness, like if everything's mobile and looser, then hopefully less pain. So I'm kind of working on that at the moment.
Has it helped?
I feel like it is helping, and like if she does like a massage on me, that always helps. But obviously, she's trying to help me to learn how to do things for myself as well. Deep diaphragmatic breathing and Kegels, but like in a certain way.
Kegel.
It's kind of like
pelvic
floor exercises. So it's like
Oh,
squeezing and releasing. But it's kind of taught in a way where it's like when you do squeeze, you're incorporating the breathing, and you're kind of trying to take it as like as high up as you can, and then when you release, you've got to bring it right all the way down to the basement kind of thing. So it's to help you relax those muscles because of the impact that endo can have, like for me, on my bladder and bowel. So it's to help with those symptoms. So I incorporate.
So will Pilates be good for you then?
Probably, yes. Because it's core as well, isn't it?
I would definitely say Pilates.
I think it probably would be. I probably need to do it, don't I?
Yeah, probably need to come
we'll
to
talk
Pilates.
after. We'll talk after. Deep diaphragmatic breathing, which is a part of my musical work as well. Like I do vocal coaching with some of my girls, and I always, at the beginning of our sessions, we do things like we do a bit of EFT tapping, we do deep breathing, just things to kind of balance out my nervous system a little bit before I kind of start the day. So I do like doing that. I do kind of make it more of a spiritual practice, so I incorporate God into it with like my statements and that. Pray a lot. I like listening to like inspirational podcasts and affirmative things. You know, there's those things on YouTube and they just like they're affirmations, and it's just kind of talking really positive stuff into you. Sometimes I fall asleep to it and I feel like it's going into my subconscious.
Oh my God, I love that.
Yeah, things like that. Just giving myself a lot of rest. Sometimes I'll just chill out and watch a bit of Netflix. Obviously my creative pursuits, making music, making perfume, that is all quite holistic for me.
And also, you know what? Actually, I just thought that's very feminine. That's very in your feminine energy, though. Creating.
Creating and just kind of nurturing and helping to make things grow and better and repair. That's kind of
What about you?
Well, Leonie hit the nail on the head in terms of, so not the FODMAP diet, but generally. An anti-inflammatory Mediterranean diet is really important. So one of the things that's kind of like the cornerstone of hormone balancing and supporting endometriosis is balancing your blood sugar levels. So making sure you've got enough protein, and you're looking at your lean proteins. You know, oily fish is a great example because you're getting your protein and you're also getting your omega-3s. So omega-3 fatty acids, they're first of all, they're anti-inflammatory, but they're also part of the cell membrane. So like each of our cells needs fats on the outside, and without the fats on the outside, our cells can kind of like become stiff, and the communication between cells can kind of become difficult, which is, you know, can contribute to lots of different symptoms. You could potentially adapt your diet to low histamine. So estrogen can trigger histamine, can trigger, mast cells, which produce histamine, have estrogen and progesterone receptors, and so they can increase the levels of estrogen in the system, and then estrogen can then make that process kind of more, so it can allow your body to create more histamine. And so there are some foods that are slightly higher in histamine, some foods that are slightly lower in histamine. Definitely like taking care of your liver, so making sure you're getting lots of B vitamins, so like your green vegetables, getting lots of magnesium. So again,
When you
green
say look
vegetables,
after, as in give it the nutrients that it needs.
yeah, we
or
need to give the
detox-
liver we need to give the liver the nutrients that it needs. But there are also things that you can do, so like, you know, making sure you've got enough hydration so that everything can flow properly, eating certain vegetables like cruciferous vegetables, which have B vitamins, they have magnesium, and they also have glucosinolates in them, which helps the different detox processes.
Talking about detox
Yeah.
your liver. So one of my previous guests, Bianca, so she has fibroids, and she's basically went through the holistic way of healing herself. Well, she shrunk her fibroids, but anyway, she was saying that milk thistle will help. Is really good for detoxing your liver.
Yeah, milk thistle's a great way for supporting the liver. Also things like N-acetylcysteine or glutathione, they're kind of like part of our master antioxidant system in the body, but then including other antioxidants like vitamin C in your citrus fruits or in your red fruits, vitamin D, really important, zinc, really important, selenium, from your Brazil nuts if they're from the right place, because our soils are depleted. Making sure your gut is in a good place. So, you know, not only is it important to make sure that your liver is detoxing properly, but we then need to make sure that actually things are binding in the gut and we're actually releasing them rather than reabsorbing toxins or used up hormones. So, you know, making sure you're adequately hydrated to allow to keep things moving, making sure that you're eating enough fiber, again, to keep things moving and to bind to the hormones.
What if people get bloated from eating certain some people get bloated from eating vegetables?
So that could be, again, because this might be something going on in the gut. So I'm a massive advocate for stool testing. If you're following me on Instagram at the moment, you'll see that I'm talking about that a lot at the moment, because so in the digestive system, you've kind of got different ports of call of like how we're digesting and assimilating foods so that we can extract the nutrients and use them, and then eliminating waste. So in the mouth, you've got your digestion starts in the mouth with chewing and saliva. Then when you swallow, you've got kind of mechanical digestion in the stomach. And what can happen there is sometimes we don't have enough stomach acid, which can be because of inflammation. It can be because of stress. It can be because maybe you didn't chew your food for long enough, so your body didn't have time to create enough stomach acid, which can cause foods not to, like proteins in particular, not to break down properly. And then moving into the rest of the digestive system where different enzymes will come out again. If you haven't chewed properly and you haven't created enough stomach acid, then you might not create enough digestive enzymes to digest things properly. And then what can also happen is friendly gut bacteria and also unfriendly bacteria in the gut can interact with those food particles that haven't been properly digested and cause gases and cause that bloating. And also, if again there's like inflammation in the body, or you're not feeding your body the right nutrients, or you haven't got the right balance of gut bacteria in the gut, your gut lining, so like we have like these junctions in our gut that basically protects food from interacting with the immune system, because 70% of our immune system kind of lines the gut. And if there are big particles of foods that are kind of leaching through those tight junctions because maybe we don't have the right bacteria to create the tight junction, then that can also create bloating and inflammation as well. So there's lots of different reasons why, which is why gut health is really, really important, especially in a condition like endometriosis, because there's so much inflammation, there's so much crossover, and there is obviously potential for the tissue to affect the bowels as well. So it and there's also so there's lots of different theories for endometriosis, but one of the theories around endometriosis is this bacterial contamination theory. So the theory that there's kind of certain bacteria contaminate within the gut that is then leaching into the immune system and causing this kind of inflammatory cascade and causing the immune system to be on high alert to release all these kind of things in the body that would normally fight disease. But in this case, it's kind of like different bacteria shooting off different signals to the body to say, hey, we've got something to fight here. And then it's kind of a bit of like a vicious cycle, because then there's inflammation and then the immune system kind of releases all this stuff that then creates pain, and then it will impact our nervous system. So, yeah.
I just
there's lots to it.
Yeah, I just learned more than I learned in school.
Yeah.
So what sort of somatic stuff have you done?
Yeah, so I got to a point where I felt like I was now we don't need perfection when it comes to our diet. I just want to make that really clear to everyone. But I got to a point where I was aiming for perfection in my diet, in my lifestyle, everything, and I was probably not very happy at the time, and I was leaving very little room for joy, and I felt like I was doing so much. I was doing all the stuff, and I was still really struggling with my symptoms, with my health. Nutrition and lifestyle changes are one part of the problem. What I wasn't addressing was the emotional, the emotional and like the nervous system impact of all the other things that maybe I had suppressed, things that I might not even be aware of. So for me, I kind of went down a journey of somatics, which I first started working with a somatic coach who kind of helped me to. One of the questions that she asked me, which I ask probably everyone I work with, is if this was it, if this was your lot and you were going to be in this cycle or feeling like this for the rest of your life, or like if somebody else was in that position, what would they need? And the answer is usually love, compassion, acceptance, understanding, not putting that pressure on yourself. And so that was kind of like a bit of a light bulb question for me, because it was like I was always just trying to like fix it, change it, push it away. You know, I was gripping so much to all the things that I could do. And somatics really helped me sit with the sensations in the body, kind of be with my body, allow it to be as it was, you know, as it is, as it comes. There's nothing I can, there are things I can do, but also nothing I can do at the same time. And so that's been really helpful. And at the moment, I'm working with a somatically trained psychotherapist, and we're working through a process called brain spotting, which is helping me to identify and process emotions or trauma that's kind of stored in my body from experiences that I remember, experiences that I don't remember, like traumas that are recent or historical. And that's been like liberating for me.
That's a new layer of self-love locked, basically.
Yeah.
Unlocked.
Yeah. I've really had to like...
Because that's basically...
that acceptance.
Self-acceptance, self-awareness as well.
Yeah, it's been transformational for me, and some of the things that I include. So I think just when something comes up, if I've got the time, or I'll kind of pack it away and address it later, it's kind of acknowledging where that's sitting. So like that frustration of this thing that's happened, where is that sitting in the body? Is it here? Is it here? Is it, is it down here? I have a daily gratitude practice. So I journal on gratitude every single day, because I genuinely feel I've got to a place now where I'm like genuinely grateful to like wake up and like take a deep breath every day. And I do affirmations every day, and every day, like in the evenings, I write kind of like my highlights of the day and things like that. And then there's like breath work, self-touch.
Breathwork as in somatic breathwork or the just box breathing?
Yeah, any type of breath work really. There are kind of somatic like movements that you can do. So like you can do kind of like you can shake out while you're doing different breathing techniques. Like I think when you're feeling a little bit less than or a little bit anxious or something's not quite going quite right, you know, kind of like self-touch can be really soothing. The physiological sigh, I find really effective. I don't know if you know that one.
But has it helped the
Yeah,
symptoms?
I think it just helps to kind of like ground you in the moment where mental health is such a big factor. Just finding what works for you as well, because what works for me might not work for you, and what works for you might not work for the next person. So
it's no one size fit all.
I think a lot of it is like.
Is that how you started your spiritual journey?
Yeah, I think like through endo and just kind of stripping back the layers of like what life is about or what I need, or you know, having that faith in myself. Like Leonie was saying, like I have the utmost faith that I can get through absolutely anything as a result of this journey and like, you know, other life experiences. And I think that in itself is like it's just so wonderful to have.
Talk about support system. Have you been to for the therapy basically?
Lots of types. But the one that I'm doing now, the brain spotting, like the somatic therapy, for me has been the best. Like the talking therapies, like the CBT, etc., has not always been. My question always used to be like, but in the moment, what do I do?
Oh my God, literally that.
In the moment, what do I do when I'm on an anxious spiral or I'm, you know, I want to go and play with traffic? Like, what do I do? And that's where the somatics has come in. It's the breath work. It's sitting with the body. It's, you know, giving yourself that self-touch, having a hot bath, you know, to kind of just switch it up and, you know, just take yourself off that ledge, basically. That's where the somatic stuff has been for me anyway. I don't know about you.
No, I haven't had somatic therapy. I've had, again, normal CBT. I have been referred to have like pain, specialized pain therapy, because I think...
It's the same as physio?
No.
Okay.
So basically, you know, like, you know, it's quite normal to have therapy nowadays to help us with our, you know, mental health. But when you have chronic pain, first of all, endometriosis and all the symptoms and hormonal fluctuations of that, but then the added layer of like chronic pain, which is like pain all the time, daily, it can really affect the way you neurologically, the signals, I don't know the complete science behind it, but it does change the way you interpret information, how you are, it puts you at a heightened state all the time. So you're kind of constantly like on red alert, so I think even the anxiety, even if you suffer with anxiety, which I feel like I've always had anxiety, or for a long time I've you know, something I've struggled with, but the added element of chronic pain makes it that much more to deal with. So just seeing an ordinary therapist doesn't always cut it. I have been referred to a pain therapist, but in all honesty, I've not really, I've yet to have a proper session. I'm not sure what's going on there. But yeah, I have had normal therapy, and, you know, it helps to a degree, but like you said, I think when it comes to how do I actually handle things that are happening, it's almost like it's like a plan that looks good on paper, but it doesn't. In the reality of it is there are too many factors that we're dealing with that we have no control over, on top of the mental element, which most people do struggle to need support there. The pain element and the hormonal fluctuations and all the physicality and emotional and mental impact means I think so much more support is needed. So I'm still trying to navigate what would help me. And I think, I do a little bit of somatic stuff aside from it, and it all kind of comes, separate to having talking therapies, but it's kind of my own practice or my own healing and nurturing I do away from that. But I think partnering the two is probably one of the better ways to navigate that, because it does need to be a layer thicker, I feel, than what I've experienced thus far.
If you was to go to therapy, like, you know, you said that you went to the regular therapy, what can they do? Just listen to you? talk about your pain?
Do you know?
I don't know. I've not ever actually gone to therapy because I want to talk about endometriosis. I've usually gone to therapy because of my mental health rather than I want to talk about. But it's also interlinked.
It's
But
interlinked.
yeah, but I was going to say, was your mental health
impacted
from it? Yeah.
Yeah, I remember one of the therapists that I worked with, I was like, I'm just so anxious about, I can't eat anything. Everything gives me a flare when I was at like a different part in my journey. And I was like, I had so much anxiety about going out to eat and socialising. So there was that. Yeah, I think they just, CBT I've had a lot as well. But again, I'm not, it has definitely helped to kind of, now when I'm like feeling in a more regulated state and I have some unhinged thoughts or, I'm feeling really anxious, I'm in an anxious loop, I can kind of usually use kind of like the CBT processes to be like, okay, like, and kind of take myself to the worst case scenario and realize that the worst case scenario is probably not going to happen, and then pull myself back. But again, I really feel like the movement side of things, allowing that energy to like almost dispel or like move through the body is life changing, I think.
Yeah.
So then, I was going to say like Leonie, because you used to dance, innit? But then you said because of pain, thing like that.
I did a class a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
And it was the first time.
You looked great.
Oh, thank you, Daddy. I felt like I had to take my heels off. I was like, because my ankle started trembling. I was like, oh my goodness. I didn't have my best heels on either, but it helps.
I went to a class yesterday.
Did you?
Such a long time, yeah. But it was a beginners class because I was like, I haven't been dancing for such a long time. I'm gonna go back to beginners, and it was a different vibe. It was an Arab vibe.
Oh.
So dancing in heels to Arab music. So I was like, why don't I try something different? And it was really
That
fun.
sounds
So,
fun.
Yeah, like shimmy, shake it.
Oh.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, a whole vibe. I always feel better afterwards for it. Though. It's like it releases endorphin that you can
Definitely
feel.
does,
It's more than it just feels good, doesn't it? Like
dance is good for so many things. I think like the science is finally catching up with all of this body-based, all of these body-based practices. So,
but if you dance,
I'm here for it.
But when you dance, does it hurt in the moment, or is it? Oh, because you mentioned earlier, it's the getting ready to get there.
Yeah. It's when I'm not in practice. I've been I'm so rusty, so to speak. So when even when I'm like learning the routine, I can feel myself struggling sometimes. Like when you're drilling parts, and I can feel like my energy like. And then, but because and
the mental,
you're
trying to get right. Yeah.
But because it's kind of in the blood a little bit, it's in the bones. I just push through. I'm like, just do it, and then you feel good after. But then I'll pay for it after. I'll be aching and. Which is normal when you haven't worked out or done anything physical in a while. You get like that DOMS
And
effect.
also, to be honest, right, I'm not gonna lie. When you're in your 30s, you go to a dance class. Your whole body, like yesterday, the dance class was not even hard. I came home, I was like, fucking hell, man, my body is starting to ache. Like it was. I mean, we did a bit of well, it was mainly like just shimmy, but we did a bit of like bending our back a little bit. But I think just that, like, not that I didn't put any muscle, but I just felt the soreness, like the DOMS, like you said.
Yeah.
It's not the same. The body's like.
I find it. Do you know what? It's the first time I've realised like we're actually all like people who love dancing.
Yeah.
A small world.
I know. I miss it though in the way that I used to do it before I do, and I felt like heels is probably not the thing for me to go back to. I should probably do a bit more like commercial street stuff, which I love as well. But I want to ease back in.
Yeah, that's what I've been saying to myself. I said I want to ease back in as well.
Just need to come to reggaeton.
Yeah, I didn't know. To be honest, I've been wanting to go to a reggaeton class.
She's so good. The instructor, she's incredible.
Years ago.
Yeah.
But I was saying, last question, topic, lifestyle adaptation, like you said earlier. So, anything around that you want to talk about? So, for example, last time we spoke about with friends. No, you spoke about how you actually have to plan ahead. You just have to see where you're going to potentially come on. So then you have to really, really plan ahead because of your cycle.
I think a bit like what Andri said, like just try not to take on too much. Like sometimes there are really busy spells and you've got to try and navigate how to fit things in. But I do look ahead and I think, can I manage that? Can I manage that all in 1 week? And I'm going to have to let someone or something down. And I have to sometimes, postpone the thing that I maybe can to the next time, or just not overwhelming myself because I know that I won't be able to manage it. So a lot of kind of, I guess, managing my schedule, incorporating enough rest in.
Do you have to schedule a date? Let's say, for example, if you was to have a date, are you both single?
Yeah.
Okay. She's just like, shall I say it? The reason I'm asking is because let's say if you was like some guy want to take you on a date, would you be like, let me just check my diary? Like, would it be like that? Everything has to be around.
I'm not even interested in dating right now, so I feel like I can't even put myself in that headspace.
Yeah. I'm not really. I mean, if for it to happen, it'd have to make sense.
It would have to be a
so
hell
many
yes.
ways.
It would have to be a hell yes in the body.
Yeah.
Like.
What's the equivalent? Okay, this in fact going to totally different topic now. What do you think is the equivalent? The endo, let's say endo, fibroids, PCOS. The equivalent for men.
There isn't. There
isn't one.
Men don't really have it easy, innit?
There really.
No.
I don't think there is, and for so long women have been missed out in the scientific research and the medical profession has just assumed that we're little men. And now I'm so glad that the science is catching up on things like like the cold plunges and the intermittent fasting and like they're recognizing that actually it doesn't work in the same way for women as it does for men.
Even in workout too.
Yeah. And it's like, it's not to say like, you can never do these things. Like if you enjoy them and you get some benefit from them, then then go for it. Even this new endometriosis pill that was recently brought out.
So triggering.
They basically repurposed a drug that's used for, is it prostate cancer or some sort of drug that's used for prostate health. They basically repurposed it and added estrogen and progesterone to it and said, hey, we've got this new pill for women, and it doesn't really do anything different to the contraceptives that we already have on the market. And I'm like, we're not little men.
No,
it's kind
pigs.
and it is. I think it's a step in the right direction in terms of awareness.
Yeah.
I feel like they're just trying to.
I've had it.
Tick the box.
Oh, did you?
The thing is, that's what I'm saying. It's not new. What's annoying about the way it kind of came out is it was kind of advertised as this new cure type pill, and it's like,
it's not a cure.
I got early access to it because of the things I've been dealing with, and it didn't work for me. So there you go.
Nothing at all.
Do you use contraception?
I have the Marina coil. Which
does it help?
Oh, at first it was awful. It took about 9 months for my body to get used to it. I had really bad pain spasms. It's settled down now and it's helped. It definitely lightens the periods very much so. It helps on that end. And because I've got adenomyosis, the theory is that it thins the wall of the
progestin, sorry.
Yeah. So, but then I was given that the new pill on top of this, and I was also a bit concerned, and it was like, oh no, you can have both. It didn't make me feel good. And there have been a lot of feedback on a lot of women feeling their mental health is really, it doesn't make you, it can make you feel, it's different for everyone.
So infuriating.
But it wasn't helpful for me. So I just wish they wouldn't kind of throw these new ideas around wow, we've got this new thing, because people don't know. I did have friends sending me it look at this.
Everyone was sending it to me and I was like,
this isn't it.
This isn't the thing.
What would be the it? What would the thing?
God, a cure. Some kind of a...
Actually, understanding the root cause of it, because if we understand the root cause, then we can address it.
That's it.
But we don't understand the root cause. We need more research. Where does it come from?
Yeah, are they doing the research?
I don't know. I don't know. I mean, I've, the latest research is around the immune system dysfunction and the nervous system, the correlation with the nervous system and emotional trauma. But I've got a list here of 13 different theories, some of which have been, they've scientifically debunked them, etc. Some of which kind of make a little bit of sense. But it's just not clear, and
It's not definitive, is it?
I think, yeah, we are. I think there's a good understanding on like it generally being like an inflammatory condition. So, you know, having like a Mediterranean anti-inflammatory diet is going to be really helpful, and supporting your immune system with those lovely antioxidants like zinc and vitamin C, even vitamin A and selenium. But yeah, we've still got a long way to go in terms of the medical research. And the thing is, like, who would fund it? That's the thing. Like, sometimes research or things are published and it looks really positive about some new drug or some new information that's come out, and it's like, okay, who's actually funded this? Because it doesn't really fit the picture of what's going on in people's real lives, and there isn't money in women's health.
No.
That's the sad truth about it. Yeah, I don't know why. I don't know why there isn't any money in it.
I don't know if you answered this question, but what's the most frustrating? What's the most frustrating thing
About life?
having endo and adenomyosis?
About having the condition.
Yeah.
I think for me, maybe managing other people's expectations. I think I'm maybe I seem a little bit jaded, or I'm a little bit numb. I've accepted what's happening right now. I have.
Yeah.
Dearly loved ones are, hopeful to get like maybe an older version of me, or maybe they want to see me thrive at my full potential. And I would love that for myself too, but I'm kind of working at the pace that I can move at. But I think it's frustrating when people just maybe forget the limitations I might have, or when I try and set boundaries in certain areas. I think sometimes people think I'm being difficult or selfish, and it's like, no, I'm actually trying to, like, I have to point to myself because I'm the only one that can fuel this engine and keep it chugging along. So I think more so just dealing with other people sometimes I can find quite frustrating, and maybe just ignorant attitudes towards the people that don't have this around them, and they just kind of hear about it, and they don't know anything about it, and they just think it's, again, a women's condition that, well, you're moaning about your period, are you? That kind of attitude, that really frustrates me, because I think have it for a week at an extreme level and then come back and tell me how you feel about it. That would be my answer to anyone. It's just frustrating that it's a fight. We have to fight, and people don't really understand what it feels like.
What about you, Andrew?
Yeah, I think just like the gaslighting, like that. I'm going to bring it up again. This new endometriosis pill was such a gaslight.
Yeah.
I think it's just the lack of understanding, the lack of funding, the lack of research. Again, like I'm, like within me and myself and my daily life, and like I'm good with where I'm at, and I'm good with the journey I'm on, the journey I've been on. I've accepted that this is who I am, and this is part of my journey. But it's just the ignorance and the lack of funding and understanding from at a societal level.
Yeah, absolutely, I'd agree.
Anything else that you want to mention?
There's so many things.
One thing I'll say, I do feel like I don't know whether to say like government. I think endometriosis, when it's at the extreme end, as I said before, it can show up as a disability, and I think we're a long way from it really being recognised as such, which is disappointing, because I think we touched on it last time, all the other kind of chronic conditions, but endometriosis is up there, and I think there needs to be more support around it. Again, things with like mental health, I know like on the NHS you can't fund everything, but we're having to kind of go privately for a lot of the support we need to get like specifically like a somatic type of, just different types of maybe mental health, physical health therapies needs to be, I feel like it should be more available. around women's health, because it's just not an area that's really. I've been to pelvic floor physio specialists before, and they're not really specialists. They're just kind of telling me about fibre and don't know anything to do with the pelvic floor. And then it's craziness. And I've heard a lot of, a lot of other people have the same problem. They're like, I'm not getting any support. They're not helping me. And being under all these clinics, it's a lot of it's a tick box exercise. So, on the NHS, they can say, oh, but you're under a team. What are the team doing to help? Because sometimes it's just going to an appointment and having a conversation and leaving, and you still got to get to that appointment.
You go to the appointment, you have the conversation about.
You wait in the waiting area.
Well, we could just try this hormonal contraception,
this painkiller,
and then I'm like, okay, what else? Oh well, you said that you want to have children, so we can't
do
give
a
you a hysterectomy.
hysterectomy.
I'm like, okay,
it's poor. So.
There is a lot of. I'm hoping that the research will either support that there's a disability element to this, or at least like autoimmunity. Like there is a lot of research pointing towards endometriosis behaves very similarly to other autoimmune conditions, and in the way that we kind of like address it, the way we manage it, and things like that. So I am hoping that I think that kind of. Like, for example, someone's got really bad, like, in daily pain, and they are being asked to come into the office 5 days a week. If you had the recognition that this was an autoimmune disease or this was a disability, you'd be able to strongly go and submit a flexible working request to say, due to this condition, this person, like, your doctor would be able to support you and say 5 days a week in the office is not possible for this person. But at the moment, their hands are tied. Like, there's not as much as you can do because of that lack of understanding of what is actually going on. I don't know what the question even was now, but
I just said what was the most frustrating?
What all of that.
All
of that.
But first of all, thank you, ladies, and I just want to say that you two are really strong. You two are, what would you call them? Endo warriors.
We are.
Yeah, definitely. This condition, I feel like. It definitely has built your resilience, right? It's character building. Like people can't say shit to you, isn't it?
Tell me no.
Yeah, no, seriously.
That's true.
But yeah, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and your experiences, raising awareness and stuff like that. How can people get in touch with you if they want to connect with you?
I'm Leonie Sheriff on everything. So it's Leonie, Sheriff with 1 F. Andri, YouTube, TikTok, Spotify, Google, whatever. Yeah.
I am Nutrition with Andri. So that's Nutrition with Andri on Instagram, or my website is nutritionwithandri.com.
Do you speak Greek?
The
way you pronounce your name, Andri, with
Andri,
the accent.
It's a little bit broken because obviously I was raised in the UK.
Yeah.
I would say my Spanish is better than my Greek because I lived in South America at one time in my life. So my parents always, my family always give me a bit of stick about that, but I can get by. Let's say I can read and write, speak. I can understand pretty much everything, but I'm a little bit nervous when it comes to speaking because I know it's not perfect. Yeah. So the short answer is kind of
Okay. And also anyway, guys, thank you so much for tuning in, listening or watching. As always, if you resonated with this or you think anyone, I'm sure probably whoever you know has this condition and should listen to this, then please share it and also show us some love. Follow me on Spotify, Apple Podcast, and subscribe on YouTube because it will help me grow my channel. And yeah, thank you for the love and support, and I'll see you at the next episode. Thank you. Mwah.